Hi, I'm Rick Patterson with the Handyman Toolbox. Thanks for coming to my video today. Well, today we're going to talk about how to repair a hole in the garage ceiling. Alright, so one of the things that happened here at my client's house is that she was up in the attic getting some things down and didn't see where the decking in the attic stopped. And she was trying to get a box and stepped over to reach it to get good leverage, and her leg went through the ceiling. Fortunately, she's not injured severely. She is shaken up a little bit, but just a word of caution. Make sure anytime that you're up in the attic, if you have to get up there, at least have two people, have somebody to stand by. Fortunately, I was here at my client's house and helped her up out of this hole. Fortunately, she didn't fall down or go all the way through. But at least have two people with you at all time. The second thing is take a flashlight with you. I'm going to show you a flashlight here that really is good to have, and I use it almost all the time on any jobs that I want to shed light onto the project and even to the area that I'm working. Okay, this is the Dorsey LED light. I really do like this. It has two parts of brightness. Now I'm not going to do all of it because it'll mess up my camera and the recording. But you see there, the back of it's got a button. Plus it has a USB portal where you can charge it and use it to charge up your phone or any other device that you might need. The link for this Dorsey LED light is in the description below. Now let's talk about some of the tools that you're going to need for this repair. First off, this is a 6-foot step ladder. You can also get the description link in below as well. A box cutter, a cordless drill, a rafter square, a 12-inch level, all-purpose joint compound, plastic taping knife set, drywall joint tape, drywall screws, drywall, and straight edge for cutting. Okay, so you're going to have an optic illusion here. It's the LED lights that are going, and it gives it a kind of a wavy sound. I hope that doesn't, wavy look. I hope that doesn't bother you. If it does, please don't go any further to watch this, because I'm going to be using this LED light quite a bit until I can change it out. So, for right now, we want to clean up the mess. So what I'm going to do is take my box knife, and I'm going to cut right here at the wall. And why I'm doing this is because there is tape that was placed there so in the corner, and I don't want to tear the paper when I pull away from here. So I'm going to make several passes on this to make sure that I release the connection with that tape. And there you go. Alright, so we got that. We'll get this out of the way here. Okay, at the very back, this sheetrock has a couple of nails, and it went past the wall. So what these sheetrock people did first is they put the wall up, or the ceiling up, and then they put the wall up underneath there. That's pretty much how you do sheetrock when you're installing it. So you do the ceiling first and the wall. So you have to remember, this is what's going on, is that when you do a ceiling repair, especially in the corner like this, there's going to be some obstacles. So now I need to get a pair of pliers to pull these two nails out. Make sure, and especially right here at the joint, there's a couple of places I'm going to look at, because I'm going to slip this right here and make a clean cut as well. So I'm going to go ahead and remove all that for right now. Now, as I'm pulling out the nail, I just wanted to talk about this tool right here. This is called nail pliers. It reminds me of a parrot, if you will. Okay, and so all I do here is go back over here, grab a hold of the nail itself, and then just rock it left and right and it pulls straight on out. Alright, now what we have is an opportunity to go ahead and start cutting things out. But before I get to that point, I'm going to go ahead and take my square, put the flat edge right here up against the wall, and now I get a straight line that I'm going to take my pencil, my marker, get my line here. Then once I get that, I'm going to take my straight edge off my level, line up the edge with the mark, right like so, and then just take it and keep marking to get my straight edge. Now I'm going to go a little bit further here because I need to cut a little bit more than what the level gave to me. Now I've got this level here, this mark right here done. Now I need to do this part perpendicular to that. Okay, so now that I've got this line here, I'm going to go ahead and find or make a line here. There's a natural butt joint right here, so I'm going to tap into the edge of this right here. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take the flat part of my square, put it over and adjust it like so, and make my cut and make my line right here so I get a good clean edge. Then do the same thing right here. Line the edge of this up and until I intersect it. And now I've got a great place to start cutting is here and on back to that wall there. And so I'll have a square cut out for me. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start cutting. And I'm just going to cut as straight of a line as I can and follow the pencil mark that I made and get this completely cut through. Once I cut through it totally, I'll remove it and clean up the edges and we'll move on to the next thing. Now that I've got the entire area squared up, I'm going to go back in here and take my tape measure and take it all the way in if you can, or add. What I'm going to do is just add what I've got, 1/2 inch, so I can make my cut square. Okay, so now that measurement just did, it was a square. It's 24 inches and a quarter. So I'm going to add 1/2 inch to one end because I couldn't get past where the wall is to the stud. So I'm going to add 1/2 inch for that. So it's 24 3/4 by 24 1/4. Now let's make the cut. Alright, first thing we're going to do is make the measurements. And I said earlier that one of these is, let's see, 24 1/4. So I'm going to make that edge right there, and then 24 3/4 on the other edge, and there's my mark. So what I'm going to do here now is take this square. Some guys call it a quick square. I've always known it as a quick square. Make my straight line there. Come back over. Make my line there. Now, this is the kind of cool thing that I like to use this for. This is called a guide, or clamp and cut edge guide. So it's got places where you just pinch it and you can move it. I'm going to go ahead and move it all the way out. Also, I'm going to square it with this here at the other end just to make sure I'm still on point there. Now I've got it raised up a little bit, and it probably won't stick. Just see if it does. Okay. Let me flip it over. We'll just use a little what we call Southern ingenuity. The way to overcome that is to do the same thing down here where I can get my point of reference. So I'm going to do 24 1/4 here. Use this as my point of reference. There we go. Put the two lines together. Sometimes you can use this on a table and it will work when it's elevated. I'm not there, so I'm just going to line this up completely on this one edge, and now I got my square. So now what we're going to do is just go ahead and cut this out, and then we'll get to the next stage. So what I'm going to do here is just go ahead and make my straight cut all the way from one end to the next, and I'll show you why here in a second. Because if I score this on the finished side, I can pop this, and so I don't have to make a lot of cutouts. So just lift it up like so, hit it from behind, back, edge of this. What I'll do is start at the bottom, cut right into the crease with it folded like this, and it comes right apart. And we'll take this part, get it out of the way. Going to do the same thing here. Don't have to lay it down. Just follow the line. Doesn't have to be pretty. Like so. Crease it in the back. Flip it over. Start at the bottom. And we're done. So now, this is the piece I'm going to be working with. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is insert a stud here on this side because I have nothing to secure the new piece to. So I'm going to go from stud to stud, and here I'm going to lay it inside, and I'm going to cut this to 22 1/2. Let me, always the rule here is to measure twice, cut once, right? So we're going to do that. Okay, so that's going to be 22 1/2. Alright, so now I've cut my wood. I'm going to go ahead and place it inside, and then I'll show you the next step. Alright, so now I'm going to take two decking screws and put these in now into the boards. One thing I want to point out, that these boards are not supporting anything, they're just bracing. So I'm going to go in at an angle. Right, that's good there. Do the same thing right here. Alright, and that's really all we need, because again, it's not going to support anything. It's just for bracing to when we put the edge of this drywall up. Alright, so we ran into a little situation. There's a lip over here, and there's of course a lip back there. So what I've decided to do, because it would not fit, the large piece would not fit there, so what I did was cut it in half, installed this part. I cut another board to go right across here, and so we're going to get this to go in, and I'm going to put it about halfway through. Just make sure that it's all secured when you do this. So we're going to do the exact same thing, give it a little bit of a lip there, and secure this here, and we should be able to rock and roll. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do here is screw in and secure the sheetrock. You want to go into it where it is flush and not sticking out. Otherwise, you're going to have some issues doing the tape and bed. And because I've got such a tight area here between this shelf, I'm going to take that extension out. Alright, so now that I've got everything up there, it's snug, I'm going to go ahead and run my adhesive tape. And so it's pretty cut and dry, no pun intended. So just take it, put it over the seams like this, run it over just a little bit when you're doing this because you're going to have the seams overlapping. So do this all the way around. Make sure you cover both sides of the seam where you have mud to go. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start putting mud on this. Guys, there's really no right way and wrong way to put on mud. And I wouldn't get too much of a perfectionist on your first try, your first application, because you can waste a lot of time. You're not ever going to get it just perfect. I've seen videos where guys come along and they've been doing this for like ever and a day, and that's all they do. So as long as you can get everything pushed up the way it's supposed to, don't worry about perfection at all. I am very much a perfectionist, and I want to get it done a certain way every time. That's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. So God bless all those that can just come in there and make these great videos and get 1 million views and all that other stuff, if that matters to you. It really doesn't me, but what I like to do is always do a good job for my clients. And part of that is patience. So anytime that you're doing mud work and stuff, it's just going to take patience. Don't try to get things perfect your first time, because that's just not how it goes here. So this is your first application. We're going to do all the seams all the way around, and don't worry about the corner at all. I'll show you how to take care of the corners later. But go and put your first application, let this dry. This takes a while. The key to this is the thinner applications you make, the faster your first coat will dry. Alright, so we've got 2 coats up here, and the first coat has been sanded down. The second coat is a skim coat. It's not perfect. It doesn't have to be with what we're doing with it, but it's sealed. Alright, so now I have 2 options. This ceiling had stippling in it. Guys, it's not a good idea to put stippling in a garage because the humidity causes it after a while to start peeling and popping and coming loose, and it's just a huge mess. So instead of putting popcorn back in here, it's a small, maybe a 4x4 storage area in the garage. So we're not going to do that. We're going to go ahead and stipple it rather than just painting over it, which will show some of the rough spots in the other areas. Instead of spending all that time, we've opted just to go ahead and stipple this. So I'm going to show you how to do this now. Alright, so what I'm doing here is just taking some mud, starting up at the wall, bringing it towards me. Don't worry about the mess here. Some people are really neat, but that can be cleaned up later. So I'm just going to bring this in the corner, push it in the corner, bring it forward, keep coming with it. Again, this does not have to be pretty when you're doing this, because you're going to come back with a roller, a wet paint roller. And I'll show you here how to do that and get it to pull up a little bit. So again, I'm just covering the entire surface here with this mud and have something to work with and cause the stipple effect. I'm not putting it on very, what's the word, very heavy. Just applying it with a thin coat, just enough to cover it all. Alright guys, so my light just went out, so we're going to have to stop right here for a little bit. But I'm just going over this with a wet roller brush, and it's not sopping wet, so don't worry about that. Just smoothing out everything. Going up here as we can. Don't get your brush terribly like dripping wet. It's not necessary in this. All you're doing is just going over it and letting the brush fibers kind of smooth things out, and also we're doing this where it looks so much better. Alright, we're going to do this and let it go ahead and dry and come back and put a final coat on it. Okay guys, it's been 24 hours since I last worked on this final skim coat. So what I'm going to do now is introduce something that we didn't introduce earlier, and that is a stipple brush. Okay, it's about the size of a man's hand. Okay, and it's just a brush. It could be any color. It's got holes for let's say a paint broom handle or anything like that, extension or whatever you want to do. I'm going to do this by hand because I'm just working right here above my head. So what you do on this is you take some mud and you dilute it with water and kind of get it almost like, I would say, pancake batter. Alright, so it's going to look like this, and I'm sure that most of y'all have seen these through the years. So I'm going to show you how to do this here. Let me adjust the camera. Okay, so I'm going to take my stipple brush and start over here in the corner, and all I'm going to do is just touch it like so. That's all we're doing. Just push it up, and it makes little places on it where it's kind of risen, if you will. Rises from the surface there. I'm going to keep dipping this into the bucket and just work my way around and just kind of push it. Now it's going to look odd, if you will. It's going to look odd at first when you're doing this, but just push it up and pull down, if you will. So I'm going to keep going this. All we're doing here is making a good impression, and you want to make a good impression that lasts, alright? So just push, and when you pull back from it, it's going to leave little little stalagmites or stalactites. I don't know which one it is you call it. But just start back here in the back again. Okay. And do this over and over again. What this does, it breaks up the pattern in your eyes as you go, and you look for anything that's I don't know, irregular. So we'll keep doing this. If you put it on too heavy, there's nothing wrong with that. All this is doing is giving it texture. Now I call it a stippling brush. I think in the store it was called a texture brush. So it does give the surface some texture. I've seen this done by walls and ceilings alike. So instead of just having what I call a bland surface, you can do it like this, okay? So I'm going to keep doing this all the way around. Okay guys, so this is what it's going to look like until it dries. It has a little bit of a sheen. Everything will blend in visually once this completely dries. I like texturing. Sometimes it does cover a multitude of sins. So again, this is in a small garage storage area. Nobody's really going to see this, but you know what? Quality does matter, especially if you know you've done a good job. Okay guys, we have finished the repair of the ceiling. It's patched now. It is completely textured and looking great. Well listen, thank you so much for coming to my video today, and I hope to see you next time. While you're doing this, pay attention to this important message.